everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 404, Restraints on a Plane. Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. So Eddie, I'm going to confess that I've been suckered into watching some terrible reality television, and I want to defend why I watch it and see if you agree. So Carissa has suckered me into starting watching 90 Day Fiancé and all of those types of shows, where the general premise, that they meet someone.
I'm already going to say now, you're not going to be able to defend this, but keep going.
Okay. The premise being that they meet someone like remotely online or something like that, and then they become engaged, and then usually then go to visit them, and then have 90 days to then get married so they can get a visa for whatever country they want to go to, mostly the U.S. So most of the times it's very lonely old men who are very weird that find either women from South America or Asia that are kind of just looking to come to the United States. And it's just so clear. The reason that I've been suckered into watching it, I only like the beginnings when they finally meet this person, and to see what their expectation is, that they think this person genuinely likes them, is interested in them, and then just how badly it goes.
Do you think they really do? Because maybe in the early episodes of the show, but at this point, you're going on 90 Day Fiancé, right? To be famous. Like, I always think that's the downfall to any successful reality TV show, is that the original premise, whatever it goes out the window by season 2 or at most season 3. I mean, no one's seriously going on 90 Day Fiancé now because they think they're going to find love. They're doing it because they think they're going to be the next, that weird short guy with the no neck, where he's turned into like,
so
you
do
know
watch
what I mean?
it.
Like I've seen the memes. And I've seen the video, like Instagram reels and stuff. But that's who you want to be. You want to be internet famous, and have a career out of being the weird guy who was on 90 Day Fiancé.
See, I agree with you. But at the same time, I think these people that are on the show are so strange and weird that a lot of it is actually genuine, because they're just that dumb or like that just naive. Like I do think, yes, part of it is, I can go on, I can be famous, whether this works out or not. But I think some of these people are just so not all there. I mean, that they actually think.
The question I'd have to ask, I know nothing. Are there any instances where it has been successful?
Yes.
Where 3 years later the people are still together?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are. Then yes, you could probably convince people.
Yeah.
Look, 5% success rate, but maybe you're one of the 5%.
Yes. And so the one that's really intriguing me right now is there's a 52-year-old guy who was previously married and divorced and is very, very, very religious. And he was catfished before and now has a new girlfriend from Peru that he swears this time is real. And then they show you what she sent, and it is like catfishing 101, like the most generic airbrush picture you could ever have. She never has video FaceTimed with him ever, but she sent a video to prove she's real. And the video was just like, not like so non-specific. It was like, hey, you, this is Mahogany. I'm real. And that's the whole video. And he's like, see, she's real. And part of me is thinking what you said, like, there's no way this guy is serious. But then when you listen to what he says, it's like, oh, no. God has put us together in this moment. She is very religious as well. And, she has told me that God was the reason that she started talking to me. And I said, no way, God is the reason I started talking to you. So obviously this is God's work. And it's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Frank, Frank, I think you're taking this a little too seriously. Reading into both what they're saying and their intentions and their understanding of the show. I think you're a little bit too involved.
But I love the catfishing. Like it's the most obvious catfishing ever.
But it might not be, because it could just be a television production company going, "Hey, look, we need to find some people. Yeah, look, encourage this guy. He knows it's fake, but we're gonna pay him, X number of dollars to be on the show originally, and then he'll think he can always show up at weird, signings around the place, and like do some weird sponsorship deals online. I don't know. I go through down some weird YouTube rabbit holes and watch some weird TV, but I'm yet to waste my time too much on reality TV.
Yeah.
I did last night. I did watch 3 episodes of Survivor
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Below
from
Deck.
like old
I thought
episodes
we
of.
were gonna become a Below Deck podcast.
No, we are not. I there are few things I dislike more than people liking Below Deck.
I knew there was a reason we hated each other. So then, if you're not watching reality TV, Eddie, then what are you watching? That's the big question.
I mean, it's all sports and documentaries.
Just sports
That's
reality.
my life.
Like sports aren't fixed, Eddie. You think reality TV's fixed?
Yeah. It's literally just sports and documentaries. That's 98% of my television consumption. And as we've discussed on previous episodes of the podcast, clips, segments of movies rather than watching the movies themselves. I've kind of got somewhat addicted to, there's that guy who just like does the sort of synopsis of movies with the movie clips running behind it. And so you can basically watch an entire movie in 6 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes. He just runs through the plot, and I kind of enjoy it. Sometimes I go, you know what? I feel like I got the pleasure of watching that movie without wasting an additional hour and 30 minutes.
It's so sad. You like to don't enjoy being entertained.
No, I do. Like, if I'm going to watch a good movie, don't get me wrong, I'm not doing that for a movie I really want to see. But sometimes for those, it's like, these are movies I missed. So I'll see. I'm trying to think an example of one that I did. But there'll be a bunch of movies where it's like movies from 10 years ago that I'm never going to watch. And then I go, oh, I remember that movie being out. I'm never going to see it. I have a vague idea of what it was about. And then I sit through 8 minutes instead of sitting down for 90. And I get a true sense. I feel like I probably come away with a better understanding of the movie than a lot of people who actually watched it, because I get a guy who's actually put thought into editing it together and giving you all the key plot points and putting it together in a nice. The only thing that's interesting, I'm assuming it's a text to voiceover, because occasionally the words, the way that are pronounced, is very bizarre for someone who has as good of an accent as this person seems to have. It's very weird. Suddenly there'll be words that pop up, and like instead of chair, he'll be like char. It's there's just there's just weird examples where it kind of it throws you off. There, it kind of takes you out of the experience for a half a second.
Let's move on to arguably I would say actually not arguably, definitively the best weekend of NFL, because you have 4 games and they're all good games at this stage.
Yeah, next week becomes depressing because it cuts down to 2, and then you think like, oh, the season's nearly over, so there's that element to it, and then also a lot of pressure on getting one really good game out of only 2 games. Whereas at least this way around, you can feel pretty confident that out of the 4, one of them will be very good, and then
I mean, on paper they all look very good. And I think it's better than the week before, because the week before, even on paper, we said that, this game's going to be a blowout, and it was, and this game's going to not be that great, and it wasn't. So there was, you have 6 games the week before, but they're not all high quality like you have to this week. This is my favorite weekend in the NFL.
Feel like you may have said that 3 or 4 times this season. But yeah, no, it should be fascinating. And I guess we can kick things off with our picks then, where the first game up, the Saturday afternoon game, I guess depending on which time zone you fall in, but is the Bengals at the Titans, and the Titans are 3.5-point favorites.
This is a very interesting matchup because for me, yes, the Titans are the number one seed, and you have to respect the fact that they're the number one seed. But I still say you have to think about what Titans team you're getting here. Are you getting the Titans team that beat the Rams, the Colts, the Chiefs, and the Bills in consecutive weeks? Or are you getting the team that lost to the Steelers, lost to the Texans, what was the big to the Jets? Are you getting that team, or are you getting the team that ran the gauntlet of playoff teams in the middle of the season? The encouraging part is maybe you're getting the team that ran the gauntlet because during that time they had Derrick Henry, and all indications are that Derrick Henry's coming back. He at least practiced yesterday and had contact, or they were something about like how they were hitting him purposefully to see if he could handle it.
He'll be limited, but he'll be back. I don't think you're going to see him carry the ball 35 times, but yeah, he'll be 10 to 20 carries depending on the situation in the game and how much they need him. So he's definitely going to be playing,
Yeah.
But as to how much he plays and how significant of a role, I think that's a pretty big question mark.
Yeah. And, he'll have fresh legs. So we saw last week with Cam Akers, who came back from a torn Achilles, who probably that is still at injury also is not 100%, but just the fact that he was just so much fresher than everyone. He had a great game. I think he had almost 100 yards and 2 TDs. So
yeah, I never know how that works. I mean, we've discussed that before. This is a little bit like last year when games were getting postponed, and then we had, oh well, this team's coming in. Are you rusty or are you fresh? You can kind of make the argument either way.
I think one person can be fresh,
Henry,
but I think the team can be rusty.
Okay, but Derrick Henry could come. I mean, he's got a massive metal plate in his foot that he didn't have before, so that's one thing he's got to contend with. But aside from that, I mean, maybe I feel like with a running back, I have less concern about them being rusty.
Yeah.
Then, especially he's just a powerful runner that he's still just going to be able to truck through people if he needs to, assuming that his foot is pretty close to being fully healed. And all of the reports coming out of the Titans over the last couple of months, I mean, their reports were saying basically if they had needed him in the final few weeks of the season, he could have played then. So you have to assume by now then that he is pretty close to, whether that's 80% or 90%, whatever he's at, it's at least not a major question mark.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the ball, I think we know what we're getting with the Bengals. We're going to get a good offense and a defense that can leak some points. I mean, they held the Raiders to 19, but still, I mean, the Raiders had a chance at the very end there. So I wouldn't really trust that defense. They're not a shutdown defense. They'll keep them in the games. This is a tough one. You can go either way on this. I'm going to go with the Titans just because when they put it together, they are a very good, complete team. Their defense gets a lot of turnovers. They can get some points off those turnovers, and their offense is pretty methodical. And I will give the absolute cliche that I don't ever agree with is their offense can run the ball and keep Burrow and Jamar Chase off the field, which makes absolutely no sense. But I think the Titans are the better.
It does make sense.
It doesn't.
It does make sense.
It doesn't.
It does actually make sense.
If you only get the ball 4 times and they only get the ball 4 times, if they score 4 TDs on those 4 anyway, they're still going to outscore you.
Well, that's obviously true. But the difference is that if you have one team that is built, like take the Niners, for example, just to use an example, a team that loves going on really long drives. It's in their nature. They're comfortable doing it. The difference between that versus a team, say more like the Chiefs, which is a little bit more either hit or miss on their offense. Either they're driving down the field and scoring a touchdown, or it's a 3 and out. And so if you are then in a situation where the other team has just eaten up 7-8 minutes of the clock, you're getting the ball and you think, oh, we got to put a drive together. and you're a team that's not built to sort of work your way down the field and chew clock yourselves, you can find yourself in a situation where there's only been 3 possessions of the game, but a quarter and a half is off the clock and you're down 14 points. And then in the back of your mind, you're thinking every time they're getting the ball, they're keeping it for 6, 7, 8 minutes. I think there's it's a different type of scoreboard pressure. It makes sense to me.
I think it's a little overrated of a concept.
Look, I think it's possibly overrated. I think you underrate it. It's somewhere in the middle of where, say, an ESPN analyst would be and where you are.
Let me put it this way.
Because there's also the other...
Let me give you an example. If the Patriots had more sustained drives last week and the Bills only got the ball 4 times, would it have mattered?
Okay, let me put it this way to the way I think is the best way to explain.
No, I understand what you're.
No. Okay. Let me make it. Imagine I'm in a 3-point shooting contest with Steph Curry. Which one am I more likely to win? A 1-shot 3-point shooting contest or a 10-shot 3-point shooting contest? It's obviously the 1-shot. I can rely on maybe he misses, but the more times he gets it, and the more likely he is then to be efficient than I am, then the more possessions he gets, the greater his likelihood of winning is every time he gets the ball.
But would the statistics actually say that? I know what you're 100%. Saying by chance. Would it? Because he has a 60% chance to make that shot, and you have a 20% chance. Yeah. And then over 10, he would make 60% of the 10, and you would make 20% of the 10.
You might say I've got a 20%. I would say I have a better than 20% chance of making 1 3 if I prepared for it, but I have a way less than 20% chance of making 3 consecutive threes.
Okay.
So whereas he has a 40% chance of making 3 consecutive threes. So the longer the game goes on for, the greater the gap in statistical likelihood. Yeah. Becomes. So I think that's the logic behind it. I just think this is a high power offense.
You're absolutely right. I mean, like, it's the more you do something, the more probable the outcome is going to go to the norm. So when you only do something once, it's highly, can be highly erratic. You're right. I don't see it so much in the NFL. I don't buy it as much, I guess. But going back to this game, I think the Titans are the better overall team, talent-wise. The Bengals are close. This is a great stepping stone for them, and I think they'll be back next year with arguably the same team, if not better. So this is a team that probably will be in the playoffs for a few years now, but I think it's still too soon for them, and this is kind of going to be a big learning step for them, and I'll take the Titans to win. But if it's 3.5, that's what I have. Is that the correct spread?
That's the number I said to you, yeah.
I'm going to take the Bengals with the 3.5. I think this will be a very close game.
You're threading.
I think it'll be a field goal winning game.
All right, I'm going to take the Titans. I'm going to take them minus the points as well. I think you covered a lot of the reasons why. I mean, another major cause for concern for Cincinnati is they are not good against the run. They don't stop it well. They are averaging this season, their opponents average 102.5 yards on the ground. Over the last 3 games, that average is 154.3. Now, admittedly, maybe we can throw out the Browns game because they were resting a lot of players. At the same time, the Browns are good at running the ball. They struggled a little bit against the Raiders to stop the run. And I think that's going to be ultimately the key to this game, which sounds like an obvious statement when you're talking about the Titans. But regardless, I mean, they've been running the ball well even when Henry's been out. And I just think they'll be able to run the ball all over this Bengals team. And I'm also, there's not a lot of logic to this, but Burrow hasn't had a turnover in a while. And part of me, I hate the idea of saying that someone's due, but again, you kind of got to revert to the norm a little bit here. And I think the Titans are much more likely to play a mistake-free game, even though they obviously had a couple of games this season when they had just a horrific number of mistakes. So I'll stick with the Titans, which is obviously a major flip for me. Although these are two teams that I've doubted over the course of this season, but I'll take the Titans.
I will say, maybe you'll agree with me here, the winner of this game will not be the team that is the AFC participant in the Super Bowl.
I will disagree with you there.
Ooh.
I'm not saying that they will be. I would say if the Bengals win this game, they will not be. But if the Titans are, I think the Titans have a legitimate chance. I think particularly the Titans have a real chance against
The
the
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel less confident there's just Titans Bills in the next round, and the Bills have looked good against the Chiefs. Then I'll say now the Bills are my pick. But if you're telling me the Titans have looked this good this weekend, the Chiefs have looked kind of like what we know that they look like. So say they've won like 35-28 against the Bills, but been blown hot or cold over the course of the game. And I think the Titans would give themselves a pretty good chance of just running the ball down their throats, averaging 7-8 yards a carry, and knowing that sooner or later Mahomes will make a mistake. So I'll rule the Bengals out. I think the Bengals have the worst Super Bowl chances of any remaining team, in my mind. Up next, you got the Niners at the Packers, and the Packers are 5.5-point favorites.
I'm going to have to go against Eddie here. I'll let Eddie give the history on the Niners owning the Packers recently. But for me, this Packers team, they're a 4-loss team. One is the end of the regular season when they're resting players. One is without Rodgers against the Chiefs. One is the first game of the year, which you never know what's going to happen. And the only other one that is kind of strange was when they lost to the Vikings when they were down, I think, 16-3 halfway through the second and almost came back and then lost on a last-second field goal. But otherwise, this team has kind of cruised through this season, consistently putting up 25-plus points a game. Beat the Rams pretty handily about 5-6 weeks ago. Beat the Browns, beat the Ravens. They're a good team. I just think with the rest, they're getting some players back. The matchup is tough because the Niners do have that pass rush, but I think Rodgers is going to have a good game here, play really well. And the one part of the Niners game that scares me is their secondary. And I think that eats right up into Rodgers and Davante Adams. And you could see Davante Adams having 10, 12 catches for 150 yards. And if I remember correctly, the last 3 or 4 times they've played, Davante Adams has had crazy numbers against the Niners, like over 140, had 180, I think, one game or something crazy like that. So they'll continue to exploit that because the Niners secondary is not very good, even though their pass rush is. So I'll take the Packers to win and the Packers to cover. But I'd be happy to see the Niners. I'll say that. I'm not a Packers supporter. I'd be happy if the Niners won this.
Well, I mean, I guess the immediate question mark for the Niners here was the status of a number of players they have that are carrying injuries going into this game. It looks like most of them should play. Fred Warner was a full participant in practice. Bosa was a partial participant. So you'd have to assume he's dealing with a concussion. So if even if he's back in limited practice, you'd have to assume that means he's fine to play on Saturday, which you could say, how is that possible? If you have a concussion on Sunday, why would you be allowed to play on a Saturday night? But it seems like he's going to meet all the requirements of the protocols.
Well, did he have a concussion, or he was in concussion protocol because they thought he might have had a concussion? You don't know, right?
They always spin it with out with a concussion, but that doesn't mean he has a concussion.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because they're never going to say, yes, he definitely had a concussion, because then they would get flack for playing him 6 days later. So they'll say, oh, no, he passed all of the tests at all times. But anyway, Jimmy Garoppolo continues to be slightly hurt. He's got a shoulder injury. He's got his thumb injury. So there's a lot of reasons to take the Packers, because there are not as many question marks about how healthy they are and exactly what they're going to look like on Saturday night. So I would say the logical pick is the Packers to win and to cover. That being said, and to pull out a old football cliche here. This feels like a game that's going to be won in the trenches. And from the Niners' defensive standpoint, that is, can they get pressure on Aaron Rodgers? Because as you pointed out, their secondary is not good enough. If they are not getting Aaron Rodgers under pressure and getting to him regularly, then he will pick apart their secondary. On the other side of the ball, if they are able to dominate the line of scrimmage there, then they will be able to run the ball effectively on this Packers defense. And I'm not sure how good this Packers defense is. I think because the Packers' record has been so good over the course of this season, undeniably so, that at time the flaws in their defense have been sort of brushed over. Part of that, I think, is a strength of schedule issue. And I think you just come into this. There is that element, we've spoken about it several times over the course of this season, of is this deja vu with the Packers, which we've seen them be juggernauts in the regular season and then come unstuck almost immediately in the playoffs. And I'm going to side on the fact that history will repeat itself here. So I'm going to take the Niners to win, and obviously the Niners with the 5.5 points. I don't feel so comfortable with the Niners to win just because of those injury issues. I kind of like the 5.5 points. This line opened at 4.5. I kind of like it now at 5.5. But we'll see. The Niners have had Trey Lance pretending to be Aaron Rodgers in practice. Who knows? Maybe they'll do a full switcheroo and they'll have Trey Lance pretending to be Aaron Rodgers on Saturday night.
Yeah, if it were that easy to pretend to be Aaron Rodgers, why isn't he just the starter? And just to follow up on some more injuries, so the Packers, it looks like they're going to get Jair Alexander back, their starting cornerback, who's been out, I think, since week 2 or something like that, which is a big step up because he's their number one cornerback. And then David Bakhtiari, their all-pro tackle, has been participating in practice, and he should likely return as well. So those are two of their all-stars or all-pros even. I don't actually know if Alexander was an all-pro, but definite 2 Pro Bowlers coming back, which would be good for them. But again, they haven't played in over 14 weeks. So whether they're going to be effective, that's a little up in the air. My concern, Eddie, that I want to ask you about is, are you willing at this stage to trust Jimmy G? I mean, because that's got to be part of the reason you picked the Packers, is when you just look at it face value, I think Jimmy G will mess up. And I don't know how many times against the Packers you can mess up. You give Rodgers the ball on your own 30, that's a death sentence. And it's going to happen. At least I think. I think it's going to happen.
I mean, that they're your pick, so you should think that that's going to happen. I think he always has 2 or 3 bad throws in him. You just have to hope that those bad throws are a bad overthrow on first down and the drive doesn't stall, or a dropped interception at a crucial time. And that can happen. So I think, first of all, that's it. But in a sense, for the Niners to win, it's not, it's not really trusting Jimmy G. It's trusting their run game. If the run game is efficient, they win. I mean, I said the statistic a couple weeks ago. When they rush the ball 40 times or more under Shanahan, they've never lost. So, and yes, it is one of those kind of self-fulfilling statistics because it shows that you're dominating a game and in a position to keep running it, so you're probably leading the game. But fundamentally, if their run game is efficient and they can, especially because with Shanahan, he can get every playmaker involved through the run game, which is what makes the Niners unique. Kittle can get involved through the run game. Deebo Samuel can get involved through the run game. Kyle Juszczyk can get involved through the run game. Literally everyone. And apart from maybe Jimmy G. And that's not a bad thing. But look, would it stun me if Garoppolo had an awful game on Saturday? No, it would not. And if the Packers absolutely blew them out after he just had a disastrous first half and suddenly it's 21-0 and there's just no way back, no, I wouldn't be stunned. At the same time, as I said, we've seen Aaron Rodgers have bad playoff performances. So I wouldn't be that surprised either if it gets to halftime and the Niners have been running the ball effectively and, Rodgers has thrown one bad pick and kind of stalled on a couple third downs. I think almost anything can happen. That's part of the logic behind taking the team with the points for me as well.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you that the Niners win through their run game and not through Jimmy G. But what scares me is last week their run game was pretty dominant, and Jimmy G still almost blew it with one of the worst interceptions of the playoffs. So even when their run game is on and he's really not throwing the ball, it only takes one bad Jimmy G mistake to almost blow the game. So um, yeah, that's obviously something to look for in this game, is how efficient can he be, and who knows, maybe he comes out and plays an amazing game and just helps them run up the score. But we'll have to see.
And up next, I think we have, in one of the ways, possibly the most intriguing matchup of the weekend, which is the Rams at the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are 3-point favorites. You obviously have the reigning Super Bowl champions. You have Tom Brady, who, you know, just trying to make his record look even better against a Rams team that has been unpredictable over the course of this season, but also won this matchup comfortably when they played each other in the regular season back at the beginning of the season, albeit that was in LA. And the Rams looked very good against the Cardinals on Monday night, albeit against a Cardinals team that looked absolutely awful. And I think almost any other team in the NFL would have beaten them in that game. So it's very difficult to judge how good of a performance that was from a Rams perspective, just because of how bad the Cardinals were. I guess the good news for them was that OBJ looked as if he was fitting into their offense. And as we touched on, their pass rush looked really good, and not just through Donald, actually through Von Miller. The issue here for me, I'm going to take the Bucks, and I'm going to take the Bucks to cover. The issue here for me is just the Bucks secondary, and I can see a situation here where you have Tom Brady just under a tremendous amount of pressure. They also, I think the Bucks left tackle is questionable for this game, so that's not ideal against the Rams pass rush. That's pretty good. I can see a situation where Tom Brady is under pressure a lot, and then their secondary is being picked apart with deep throws. But this to me is as simple as it's Brady versus Stafford, and I'm not taking Stafford.
Yeah, this one I'm actually going to go against here. I'm going to take the Rams to win this, and obviously the Rams with the points. For me, it's what you touched on. This is a team that injuries have been an issue, and I'm okay with injuries being to your receivers and running backs because, to be honest, Brady just sees a body and a number, and he'll hit whatever. As long as they know the route they're supposed to run, he'll put it there. So that doesn't concern me as much. What concerns me is both Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen, both right now looking like they're not going to play. So your starting center and your starting left tackle are not playing. So one, you have your tackle, which is super important to Brady's blind side, and you have Von Miller and Floyd on the other side that are just going to be coming at will. But then up center, you have Aaron Donald, who lives in the middle of that line, and without your Pro Bowl center, you now have the pressure coming from the ends and coming from the center. And if there's ever the strategy to beat Tom Brady, it's to get pressure with your 4 down linemen. And I can see the Rams with these injuries getting a ton of pressure to Brady. And that's going to be an issue. And it's always been his issue throughout his career. So that's how I see this game playing out. And I see them. You're right. I would take Brady over Stafford any day of the week. But I think Brady's going to be under a ton of pressure, and Stafford will have the run game going again. Well, the Rams will have the run game going again like they did a little bit last week, and take some of the pressure off Stafford to not have to hit every throw and make 55, 60 attempts. So I will take the Rams to win here based solely off the fact that I think Tom Brady's going to have about 5, 6 sacks this game.
5 or 6. That is a high number. Now, before we started recording, you shared an interesting little Tom Brady fact coming into this
so
round of the playoffs.
Tom Brady is older than all of the NFC coaches remaining in the playoffs. That is insane.
Aside from his
own, who's double his age, which is even more insane.
No, there are those moments with Tom Brady where you really start to appreciate just how old he is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's easy to forget. it's easy to forget because he doesn't look that old, and because you just kind of get used to Tom Brady being Tom Brady. But every once in a while, it dawns on you just how old he is, especially in comparison with all of the other players he's up against. Now, up next, I thought that the previous matchup was maybe the most intriguing in some respects. This one is obviously, I think this is you know, the blockbuster matchup of the weekend. And maybe the matchup everyone's been looking forward to seeing pretty much all season. Certainly preseason, this was the game I think most people would have probably hoped for in terms of being the AFC championship game. But it's Bills against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are 2-point favorites.
This is the prime time matchup. This is, anyone who watched the AFC Championship and saw the Chiefs win this, and then you watch the Bills this year, kind of know that I kind of think they went out of that game saying this is probably who we're going to have to play for the next few years. So we need to get better and be able to beat them specifically. And I think they've kind of designed their team to be able to specifically beat the Chiefs and get past them in the AFC. You have now an offense that seems to be clicking. It can methodically go down the field and score if it wants. It can go deep shots to Diggs and everyone else and score quickly. They're super efficient right now. So now they have the offensive firepower to keep up with the Chiefs, and they've built that defense to try and stop the Chiefs. They've upgraded their pressure up front to kind of get to Mahomes and not have to blitz them, because everyone's seen the stats. When you blitz Mahomes, he has like 85% completion rating, something ridiculous. And their secondary is upgraded now, so now they can stay with the receivers, specifically Hill. So they are built now to beat this Chiefs team. And as much as I love Mahomes, as much as I love watching the Chiefs, I'm going to be taking the Bills here to win this game. I think this is what they set out to do starting this season, knowing that they're going to have to face them, and I think they're ready. They beat them in a regular season already, and that was a pretty convincing game where Mahomes, I think, had 3 or 4 turnovers that game. He had at least 2 picks and a fumble, I think. He had 3 turnovers, but they know how to get to him and make him uncomfortable, and I think they're going to do the same thing here. And yeah, I'm going to take the Bills with the upset here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously early in the season, these two teams played, and it was a very one-sided game where the Bills just absolutely dominated. A complete reverse of what happened basically between the two teams in their previous matchup in the playoffs last year. The thing that makes this difficult is, I mean, it's obviously been discussed, constantly, is that this Chiefs defense, you have two different versions of them. So in the first 7 games, they allowed 29 points per game, which was the worst in the league. And then in the last 10 games of the regular season, they allowed only 16.1 points per game, which was the best in the league. So some of that I think you can tie back to teams that they played, obviously, but obviously the defense got significantly better. Now, whether that's Melvin Ingram coming in, I don't, there's these kind of small additions that they made and small changes that they made. It seems difficult to understand how that could lead to such a radical improvement in their overall defensive play. But clearly they are a lot better defensively than they were when these teams met the first time around. I think the thing that makes it tough is I think the Bills are a better team than when they met the first time around as well. And whereas in previous matchups between these two teams, certainly say last season in the playoffs, you would have just penciled in a good Chiefs offensive performance. So you would have just said, the Chiefs in the past, I think the version of their team was always, well, you knew the offense was going to be great. And their defense wasn't that good, but it was good at coming up with significant turnovers or stops at the right moment. They would either for momentum swings or to allow the offense to kind of pull away. They always had this knack of just at the right time getting that key play. And I think the issue for them now is, even if the defense still has that knack, which is a big unknown, is that the offense just isn't the guaranteed, 35 points a game that it was in previous seasons. So I think the Bills are the better team. I actually think they're significantly better. I think that if the Chiefs weren't the Chiefs, I know that sounds really stupid, but if they weren't a team that we'd seen making the AFC Championship game, in consecutive seasons and making it to 2 straight Super Bowls and winning one of them, I think we would feel very differently about this matchup coming into it. And the Chiefs' pedigree makes you feel like you have to respect them maybe a little bit more than you should.
Well, well,
So
I think
I think the Bills should be fair.
I mean, I just want to jump in on that point to kind of agree with you. But I think you have to take into consideration that they do have those big wins in playoff games, right? Because I think they know how to play in these big games, and maybe they're more. I guess they've experienced more on this big stage, whereas the Bills haven't, and they haven't succeeded yet on the big stage. So I think there is
For,
truth to what you're saying a little bit.
for sure. Look, if you're going to tell me that this game is tied with 6 minutes to go, then yeah, I make the Chiefs favorite. Just because there is an element of been there, done that, not panicking, not feeling like they have too much to prove. Which now sometimes, and we've spoken about this too, I think that can be the Chiefs' undoing. They can be very passive. They kind of feel like, yeah, we've always got another gear to go to. And hey, we're the Chiefs. We've already shown that we're really, really good. We've already shown that we're probably the best team in the league. We don't have to keep proving ourselves. There, and that might work. Again, it's a little bit like the rust versus rest. It's unclear whether the Bills being more motivated to prove themselves will mean that they come out and they're just firing on all cylinders, or that they kind of crumble under the pressure of feeling like this is a way bigger game for them than it is for the Chiefs. Like if the Bills lose this game, it starts to feel as if, oh, these two teams are gonna be good for a long time, and the Chiefs are always gonna have the edge. Kind of like the Patriots and the Colts back in the
Yeah.
2000s. You just felt like they got to that moment where it's like, well, the Patriots are better. Doesn't matter how good the Colts look. They're going to win the odd one, but Brady's going to beat Manning. And you will start to feel like Mahomes is always going to beat Allen when it really matters.
No,
But I
you're
think
right.
the Bills will win. The Bills will win this. So I'm picking the Bills to win, and obviously the Bills with the 2 points.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think the pressure is on the Bills here. Even though going into this game, I think they are the better team right now, I still think the pressure is on them because they haven't gotten past this stage yet. And that is a worry too, exactly what you said. If they lose this game again, then does it start to really get in their head? Does it get into Josh Allen's head that I can play MVP football, but when I get in the playoffs and I face the Chiefs, we're going to lose? And I don't, we haven't seen enough of Josh Allen yet to know what he's like under the pressure. We've just seen that one big game that they lose against the Chiefs, but he had a pretty big game last week against the Patriots and balled out. I mean, that was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a quarterback. So, maybe he's great under pressure. Only time's going to tell here, but I hope it's a fun game, and I hope it's a back and forth. I wouldn't mind this one to be a really nice back and forth with a few defensive stops, but kind of, Mahomes going up 7 and then Allen having to match him, and that would be interesting. But my question to you was, what's your number as a Bills supporter? What's the number that you need to keep the Chiefs at to win this game? What are you confident if you can keep them?
You mean in terms of how many points they score, or
Yes.
how big of a lead you need coming down the
No,
stretch?
like how many points will like what total makes you feel comfortable? If you can hold
30.
them to 30, you think you can outscore them
30.
at 30?
Yeah. I think if you offer the Bills right now, Chiefs score 30, you feel good about yourselves, and I think they would say, sure. We feel like we can get 4 touchdowns and a field goal if that's going to really sneak it, but they're really going to just edge it out. But certainly, I think they'd feel like, oh, we can get 6 scores, 7 scores in this game if it's going to be that kind of game. I mean, obviously, that's the way the Chiefs play kind of plays into the idea of the reverse of what we spoke about earlier with long drives and
Yeah.
not many possessions in the game. The way they play plays into the idea of, well, we're both going to have the ball 10, 11 times, and we think we can score on 7 of them.
Yeah, I would have said a little less, maybe 27. I would be comfortable with. But yeah, I think we're right around in the same ballpark there.
So coming into this weekend then, with 2 rounds to go, who are you picking to win the Super Bowl? Not value, Not just if right now you have to, and you can change your mind. I'm not going to make you hold you to it. But if you had to nail your flag to a particular mast right now, who are you picking?
Chiefs. No, I'm just kidding. After I just picked them to lose.
Well, no, but I think that there is a logic behind that sometimes between saying I still think because you can make the argument of if they win this game,
Yeah. Oh no.
you
Yeah.
know, then like for example, I will say I feel more confident in a sense that whoever wins this game between the Bills and the Chiefs, and we touched on it slightly already, but will be in the Super Bowl than saying, oh well, if the Bucks win or if the Packers win, do I put them in? I'm not penciling them necessarily into the Super Bowl because I think they could lose to either of the teams they'll have to face in the next round.
Yeah. I mean, it is. This is a good year because it is really tough. I don't have. Actually, we go the other way. I have strong opinions on several teams versus just having one single strong opinion. I think whoever wins this game could certainly win the Super Bowl. These are the two super high caliber teams. And the Bills right now, if they continue to play they played last week, there's not a team that can stay with them for sure. I mean, they're not going to have a perfect game again, but anything close to that is going to be tough to stay with. So I would say the Bills. My kind of more long shot pick, I think, will be the Rams. I just think they're really starting to click now, and they have the
So
talent
do you
on
want me
both
to
sides of the ball.
do you want me to run through the current odds?
Yeah, go ahead.
So right now you have the Packers are favorites at what is well, I'll do it in decimal. So 4.2.
I don't like
The
that.
Chiefs are 5. The Chiefs are 5, so 4-1. The Bills are 5-1. The Buccaneers are 11-2. The Rams are 8.5. So the Titans are also 8.5. The Niners are 11-1, and the Bengals are 15-1.
Yeah,
I have to say, looking at that, and I know you're gonna, but I think the value there in a
it's the
way is the
Niners.
Titans and the
Oh,
Niners.
okay, there we go.
It's the Titans and the Niners. Look, because here's the weird thing to me. I think if the Niners beat the Packers and say the Rams beat the Buccaneers, I think the Niners are favorites
Didn't the
for the
Rams just
NFC.
beat the Niners 3 weeks ago? Oh
No, the
no,
Niners
the
beat the
Niners beat the
Rams.
Rams. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, and also Shanahan is dominated
yeah,
McVay so
for
far.
sure.
Not so. I think in a weird way, the Niners have the biggest potential. They could go from being, 11 to what are they? They could go from being 11-1 to Monday morning being 4-1. Whereas for some of these teams, I don't think you'll see their odds drop significantly. I find it a bit weird that the Chiefs are 4-1 and the Bills are 5-1. It seems a little bit when you consider the Chiefs are 2-point favorites at home.
Yeah,
So in a sense, that's saying that the Bills are a better team because if you use the classic premise of 3 points edge for the home team, it seems a little bit strange to me. I would expect obviously the Chiefs to
well,
be
that might just be
slight
because of
favorites then to win the Super Bowl.
the Chiefs being slight favorite. Oh, you think the Bills should be slight favorites?
No, I think if you're telling me that the Chiefs are 4-1, then I would make the Bills, you know, uh, say so if we speak of them as 5 as a decimal, I would make the Bills sort of 5.2, 5.3, as in like yeah they're less likely to win this week, but then whoever wins this is probably just as likely to win the Super Bowl as the other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for the reason I say the Rams is just the way that game played out in the playoffs. To me, getting pressure on the quarterback seems to be one of the most important things to making the run and winning the Super Bowl, especially in this year's NFL when every team in this, maybe besides, well, actually, I'll leave Jimmy G in there. These are all high quality quarterbacks for the most part. You have Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers, Brady, even Burrow now at this point. These are all really, really good quarterbacks, and you can't let them sit back there all day and throw. So a team that can generate a lot of pressure is going to be successful, especially in the playoffs. And for me, watching that Rams game, they just looked every play to just be in the backfield every play.
But again, it's just hard to
I know,
judge
you're
because
right.
the Cardinals
You're right.
were so
Yeah.
inept.
No, you're right.
Like if that had been a Week 17 game and you said they were playing the Jags or the Lions, I wouldn't have gone no, that doesn't look right. Like they looked awful from first play to last play. So was that the Rams figuring something out, or was that the Cardinals deciding that they wanted to go on vacation in the mid-January and not beginning of February?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's tough to tell, but I'm going off the assumption that playoffs hit and Von Miller maybe woke it up a notch and realized, holy crap, I haven't been on a team that's got a chance to win a Super Bowl here. Maybe I'll try harder.
Who, Von
I
Miller?
know, I'm joking.
Right.
I know, I'm joking.
One of the few players there with a Super Bowl ring. Yeah. But anyway, wrapping up that NFL talk then, and as a non-sports talk again, just for a minute, and do our usual. I know how much you love it when COVID-related topics come up.
Wait.
I saw that
Can we stay on the NFL? Is yours NFL related?
No, nothing to do with the NFL.
Did you see? Well, actually, I know you did because it was sent in our group chat about the Chiefs linebacker Gay, who was arrested or charged with misdemeanor charges and arrested. He was arrested and released because he got into a disagreement with his ex-wife and broke her vacuum. Now, my question for you is, what did he do to break a vacuum? Do you think he just ripped the cord out, or do you think he took it and destroyed
it? No, I think because that's the thing is, it sounds comical when you describe, he got arrested for breaking a vacuum.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it was probably terrifying.
I know. That's what I'm thinking.
It was probably.
What do you have to do?
It was
to
probably a
break
massive man
vacuum?
smashing a. Yeah. You're just like taking a baseball bat to the ground.
Yeah. So you think he picked it and smashed it? Because I'm even thinking maybe he at just full speed kicked it right in the middle of it and bent it and snapped it.
Well, I mean, I don't know what vacuum they own, but
I'm picturing a Dyson,
vacuum.
like one of those small Dyson.
Okay.
What do you call those ones? You have one.
I don't think you could. Yeah, I don't think you could just snap a Dyson in half with a kick. They're pretty sturdy. I think you'd have to smack it a few times for it to really break. I mean, this is the other question of what defines breaking the vacuum too. Because you're right, it could be something as meaningless as he just violently yanked the cord in protest.
Just took a scissor and cut the cord.
Who knows? It could be anything, or it could be he was swinging a vacuum pretty close to her at the floor, at the wall, with it just pieces flying everywhere in 5 minutes of rage where red mist had fully descended.
Yeah.
He got released.
I mean, it had to be.
By NFL standards, it's tame.
Yes, I guess that's true. But when I read that and then heard what he did, just in my head, that must have been, I thought the same thing you just said. It must have been extremely terrifying. Because for you to have to break a vacuum, you have to be putting some rage into that. That's not that's not like breaking a broom.
Yeah. And also then you have to imagine, what was the scenario? Was he vacuuming and got set off mid-clean?
So you think he goes,
why won't you lift your feet? Put your feet on the coffee table. I told you to put your feet on the coffee table.
You think he goes to his ex-wife's house and vacuums for her?
He's a doting ex-husband, yeah. You know what I mean? What's the scenario? The vacuum just out? Does he go into a cupboard and pulls at the vacuum? There's a lot of questions there that would need to be answered to really know, to know exactly what this scene was like.
Who knows? There might be footage. There could be a cam inside the house.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I put it this way. If I'm the ex-wife of an NFL player, I have got video cameras, security cameras running in every room, covering every angle at all times. And I say that somewhat as a joke. It's not really a joke. I would 100% have Fort Knox level security in my house. But I guess speaking of security breaches, I was going to switch to an American Airlines flight from Miami to London had to turn around over an hour into the flight after a passenger refused to put a mask on. They had to return and fly back to Miami with passengers on the woman who supposedly was in her 40s was not arrested when they landed, was just escorted out of the airport. But they
Oh
were
my god, I'd be so
passengers on
furious.
board. Yeah, passengers on board were not told exactly what was going on. They were just told that there was an extreme incident with another passenger on board, which is also a terrifying way of phrasing it. You know, if you just got told someone won't put. Now, I can understand why they're careful with the information, because you tell some people we're turning around because someone won't put their mask on. And then you just get a group of people going and like pinning down another passenger and taping a mask to their face. I think you run that risk.
Or you have someone
But
going around ripping off everyone's mask. Wait, no one
yes,
has got mask anymore.
yeah, it just blows. Again, I'd like to know more information because it's over an hour into the flight. So did they have their mask on and then at a certain moment they take it off and they refuse to put it back on, which I assume is the scenario. And then I kind of also like, can't you just sedate the person and put a mask over them or
What do you mean,
something?
shoot,
You know what I mean?
shoot him with
Rather,
a tranquilizer dart?
I doubt. I'm not imagining that this woman in her 40s is some sort of raging sort of gorilla down the aisle. I'm thinking.
So then how are
I'm
you still
thinking
going to
more.
sedate her? Are you going to, like, oh, what would you like to drink? A Diet Coke? And then spike the Coke? Is that your option?
Yeah. No, but I don't know. I mean, they have restraints and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, why can't you just tie them up, handcuff them, and then put the mask on and go, we'll deal with this when we get to London?
I guess it's the question I have for you is, do they really have restraints, though? I mean, you see these in movies, but I've never been on a flight where I've seen someone physically restrained before.
I've never seen, no, I've seen medical emergencies on flights. I've never seen anyone restrained. I've seen someone get kicked off before a flight took off. I did see that.
I've seen that too.
I've seen
Yeah.
that. And really get dragged off
Yeah.
pre-flight.
I've seen someone like do the thing where like they put their feet out so like they get caught on every row as they're getting pulled out. That was pretty epic.
They must have restraints on board every flight. I just can't imagine, given the level of security now, particularly on a transatlantic flight, just given the level of security, they must have a way of trying, if someone is, say, becoming incredibly aggressive on a flight, or the biggest extreme trying to say hijack the flight, they must have a way of actually physically restraining that person without having to rely on someone like sitting on them for the remainder of the flight. I would be so annoyed though.
Oh, I'd be furious. I mean, I hate flying. So the fact that we'd have to take off and then go back and then retake off and go again, that would infuriate. It wouldn't even be the time. It would just be that I dislike flying and being in the air. It makes me uncomfortable. So the fact that I have to double up on that being uncomfortable would make me so mad.
Yeah, because also you're an hour into your flight, right? It's not the longest flight in the world. I'm guessing Miami to London, 7 hours, 8 hours.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah. So you're an hour into it, then you have to turn around. So you're 90 minutes into it, you got to turn around. So that's 3 hours of your flight. You should have been halfway to done with your flight, and instead you're back to square one. That's going to be annoying. And then imagine if you have a connecting flight in London that you're now missing, and you got to deal with that nightmare when you land back into Miami and you're trying to get in touch with an airline to say, hey, I don't know when my flight's coming, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just a mess.
Ugh. You would already been at the Big Chill bar, and now you're 4 hours delayed.
Well, that's yeah. For new listeners, I guess it's we're called the Big Chill Podcast because before, well, as part of one of our annual, well, whenever we go to London to watch sports, we stop at the Big Chill near St. Pancras. I think there's 3 Big Chills in Paris, but we stop there.
London.
And in London, yeah. And get drinks and occasionally food, very rarely.
It's our
and
meeting,
so that's
and socializing starting point.
Yeah, so that's the origin of the name. But yeah, no, I would be furious. I guess it's also worth saying, as we get close to wrapping up, we are officially looking for a Big Chill intern. So if you are interested, or if you know anyone that might be interested in being our intern, it's mainly to help us out with social media stuff. So another reminder that if you're not already, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter, search for the Big Chill Podcast. We should pop up. Also, our YouTube channel. So it's kind of to help us with the social media stuff, whether that be interacting with other conversations that are going on and trying to drive engagement, but also helping us to do more shorter clips and post those and do all of that aspect, managing the YouTube channel to a little bit of a higher degree than it is now, because it can be fairly dormant at times. And then if you have real audio editing skills and video editing skills to actually help us with the editing side of things as well, that's a possibility too. So if you know anyone, it's an unpaid internship. I guess important to throw that in
You
there.
might be able to get
That you
credits
might
from
get
school if you are still in school.
yeah, and some swag.
Maybe.
You know, there's some Big Chill swag being planned.
And hell,
and
you
some
get to be on the
sponsorships.
Big Chill podcast. I mean, that's the biggest plus.
Also true. Well, you might not be on it.
If you're
You just
interesting
might get to
enough,
listen.
you could be on it.
Yeah. You might get to listen to it live and then edit it. That's thrilling.
Maybe, yeah.
But who knows? Maybe if the person wants to be on mic and is interesting, then yeah, there's always a possibility. We got a third chair open now that Sam has betrayed us and left. So there's a microphone. Yeah. You know that guy with that really interesting name, Samuel Jones? that rare name
You're
you've
just
never
making
heard
that
before.
name up. That's the most generic name I've ever heard, Eddie. You can make up something better than that.
Oh, that's a classic Sam word, generic. He loves the word generic. There you go. But now, so yeah, if you know anyone, I guess the best way to apply is to DM us on Instagram, or message us on Twitter, or tag us in something and let us know that you know someone who might be interested and we can speak to them and see if it's a good fit. No guarantees, but it's a
And no money.
really.
Just let me reiterate that. This is unpaid.
Yeah. But hey, look, a lot of unpaid podcast interns have had their careers flourish. I mean, if you're the next Jamie and we're the next Joe Rogan podcast, careers made. Started unpaid, but worked out really well. You never know. You know, take your chance, see where it goes. Our aim is to be the next Joe Rogan.
Unfortunately, we didn't have the starting point that Joe Rogan had.
Yeah, we're not already famous comedians. But I mean, look, I'm not a big Joe Rogan Experience listener. There's like some interviews that I find funny, and I just find him amusing. Not amusing, intentionally amusing, just because he's kind of stupid. But I do give him credit. He was a pretty early adopter of podcasting and really committed to the idea of doing the podcast, even while it took a long time for it to take off. It's obviously really paid off for him. I think anyone who is podcasting, I mean, I was on a previous podcast pre 2010. Anyone who was podcasting back in those days, then it really felt at times that you were speaking into a void, and a lot of people just didn't even understand what you were doing.
Do you still feel that way?
That people don't speaking into the void, or that don't understand what we're doing.
Both.
Understand what we're doing? No. The void? I mean, no, because our listenership has grown pretty consistently.
I know, since we got rid of
I know we
Sam.
always kind of like talk. No, actually, ironically, this is something that surprised me as I look at the statistics of our. Well, during the period where we didn't release an episode, our downloads increased, which is kind of strange because normally we release 2 episodes a week, and basically within 24 hours of releasing an episode is when we get the majority of our downloads. And then there's some people who are obviously a little bit behind or kind of listening to it, but we're pretty topical, so it's hard to listen to an episode from 4 weeks ago because we're going to be discussing an NFL game that you know the outcome of. But yeah, I guess Sam left and the internet loved it.
Well, I know I loved it. And I know Ollie loved it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll say goodbye and hope for an exciting divisional round weekend of NFL.
Yeah. All right.
Talk to you later.
Well, see ya.
Cheerio.